Welcome back to Magic Blueprint. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown of your favorite shows. Today, we're diving deep into one of the darkest, most twisted, and emotionally devastating seasons of American Horror Story. We're talking about Freak Show, the fourth season of Ryan Murphy's horror anthology series. Set in 1952 Jupiter, Florida, this season takes us into the haunting world of a struggling circus troupe. It's a world where physical differences become both a curse and a source of power, where society's outcasts band together to create their own family, their own home, their own sense of belonging. This season features some of the most memorable characters in the entire American Horror Story franchise. From conjoined twins fighting for control of their shared body and their shared destiny, to a deranged clown whose tragic backstory will break your heart even as he terrifies you. From a desperate ringmaster chasing impossible dreams of Hollywood stardom, willing to sacrifice everything and everyone to get there, to a psychopathic millionaire who proves that the real monsters aren't the people with physical differences, but the so-called normal people who see them as less than human. This is a story of survival in a world that wants you dead, of betrayal by the people you trust most, of murder, revenge, and the ultimate price of fame. It asks one powerful question throughout: who are the real freaks? So grab your popcorn, settle in, and let's unravel the complete story of American Horror Story, Freak Show. Fair warning, this one gets incredibly dark. Let's begin. At the very heart of this twisted tale is Elsa Mars, the ringmaster of Fräulein Elsa's Cabinet of Curiosities. Elsa is a German expatriate, a former cabaret performer from 1930s Berlin who now runs this struggling freak show in small-town Florida. But Elsa isn't just any performer, she's hiding a devastating secret. Beneath her elaborate costumes and long, flowing dresses, Elsa wears prosthetic legs. She lost both her legs below the knee in a horrific incident back in Germany, an incident involving a snuff film, torture, and unimaginable pain. This trauma, this mutilation, this brush with death, it defines everything about Elsa Mars. It drives her desperate need for control, her fear of abandonment, her hunger, her absolute starvation for fame and validation. Elsa doesn't just want to run a successful circus, she wants to be a star. She wants to see her name in lights, to be adored by millions, to prove to the world that she matters, that she's not just a victim, not just a freak, but a genuine star, and she's willing to do absolutely anything to make that happen. Elsa sees her troupe of performers, her collection of so-called freaks, as her family. She calls herself their mother, their protector. She rescued many of them from asylums, from abusive families, from lives of poverty and desperation, and she genuinely believes she loves them. But here's the dark truth about Elsa Mars. Her love is conditional. She loves her freaks as long as they need her, as long as they worship her, as long as they don't shine brighter than she does. The moment someone threatens her position as the star of the show, that love turns to jealousy. And that jealousy turns to rage. And that rage turns to violence. Elsa is manipulative, controlling, narcissistic. She's a victim of horrific trauma, yes, but she's also a perpetrator of cruelty. She's sympathetic and villainous all at once. She's the beating heart of this season, and her journey from struggling ringmaster to television star to her ultimate fate on Halloween night 1960 is one of the most compelling character arcs in the entire American Horror Story series. Remember her name, Elsa Mars. Because everything that happens this season, every tragedy, every death, every betrayal, it all connects back to her. Elsa's world changes forever when she discovers Bet and Dot Tattler. They're conjoined twins, dicephalic parapagus twins to be specific, meaning two heads sharing one body. And Elsa finds them at the scene of a brutal murder. Their mother has been killed, stabbed to death, and the twins are covered in blood. The town assumes they're the murderers. But Elsa sees something else. She sees dollar signs. She sees her ticket to fame. Now, Bet and Dot couldn't be more different despite sharing the same body. Beta, on the right side, is sweet, naive, romantic. She dreams of stardom, of being loved, of finding a husband despite their condition. She sees the world through rose-colored glasses. Dot, on the left side, is intelligent, cynical, protective, and deeply resentful. She's the realist. She knows the world sees them as freaks, as monsters. She doesn't trust anyone, especially not Elsa Mars. This creates constant internal conflict. They share a body, but have completely different personalities, different dreams, different desires. They can't escape each other. They're literally stuck together for life. When Elsa brings them to the freak show, they become an instant sensation. The crowds love them. And this creates a problem for Elsa because suddenly she's not the star anymore. The twins are. Their arrival sets off a chain of events that will lead to jealousy, attempted murder, and, ultimately, tragedy for almost everyone involved. The twins' relationship with each other and with the people around them, especially with the wealthy and disturbed dandy Mott, drives much of the season's emotional core. They represent the central theme of the season. Can you find love and acceptance in a world that sees you as a monster? By the end, Bet and Dot will be two of the only survivors, but the price they pay for that survival is steep. The Cabinet of Curiosities isn't just Elsa and the twins. It's home to an entire family of extraordinary performers, each with their own story, their own pain, their own dreams. Let's start with Jimmy Darling, the lobster boy. Jimmy has ectrodactyly, a condition where his fingers are fused together, creating hands that look like lobster claws. But Jimmy is so much more than his condition. He's the heart and soul of the troupe. He's charming, handsome, kind. He genuinely cares about his fellow performers. He dreams of a world where they're accepted, where they can live normal lives, go to normal bars, be treated like normal people. Jimmy is the moral compass of the season. When things go wrong, when violence erupts, Jimmy tries to keep everyone together. He's the peacemaker, the protector, and that goodness, that decency, makes what happens to him later even more tragic. Then there's Jimmy's father, Del Toledo, the strong man. Del is massive, powerful, covered in muscles. He's also deeply closeted, struggling with his homosexuality in 1950s America, where being gay could get you arrested or worse. Del's self-hatred manifests as violence. He's abusive, angry, dangerous. He abandoned Jimmy and Jimmy's mother Ethel years ago, and his return to the freak show brings nothing but pain. Del's wife is Desiree Dupree, billed as the three-breasted hermaphrodite. Desiree is strong, confident, and takes no nonsense from anyone. Over the course of the season, she discovers truths about her own body, finds genuine love, and becomes one of the most empowered characters in the show. There's Paul, the illustrated seal, covered head to toe in tattoos with shortened limbs. There's Amazon Eve, the world's tallest woman, standing over 7 feet tall. There's Susie, the bearded lady. There's Pepper, a woman with microcephaly, who has a heartbreaking backstory that connects to Asylum, the second season. And then there's Ma Petite, the smallest woman in the world, standing just 2 feet tall. She becomes Elsa's favorite, her little doll, her pet. And her murder becomes one of the most heartbreaking moments of the entire season. Each of these performers has been rejected by society. They've been locked in asylums, abandoned by families, abused, exploited. The freak show is the only place they've ever felt like they belong. They're a dysfunctional family, absolutely. They fight, they gossip, they betray each other. But they're also fiercely loyal. When one of them is threatened, they all come together. When one of them is murdered, They seek revenge as a united front. This family, this chosen family of outcasts and misfits, is what makes Freak Show so emotionally powerful. Because we watch as, one by one, they're picked off, betrayed, destroyed. And by the end, almost none of them survive. Now, let's talk about the stuff of nightmares. Let's talk about Twisty the Clown. Twisty is a deformed, mentally challenged former circus clown who wears a grotesque handmade mask covering the lower half of his face, and there's a reason for that mask. Twisty attempted suicide by shooting himself in the mouth with a shotgun. He survived, but his jaw was completely destroyed. Before his suicide attempt, Twisty was a kind, gentle performer who loved making children laugh. But he was falsely accused of being a child molester by jealous fellow performers. He lost his job, lost his reputation, lost everything. Unable to cope with the accusations and the rejection, he tried to end his life. And when that failed, something in his mind broke completely. Now, Twisty kidnaps children and murders their parents. He keeps the children in an old school bus deep in the woods, believing he's protecting them, entertaining them, making them happy. In his fractured mind, he's still a good clown, still bringing joy to children. But to everyone else, he's a monster, a serial killer, the thing parents warn their children about. Twisty's killing spree brings unwanted attention to the Freak Show. The town is terrified. Police are investigating, and the freaks who are already seen as dangerous outsiders become the prime suspects. Twisty represents the tragic side of being different. He was a good person who was destroyed by false accusations, by cruelty, by a society that rejected him. And that rejection turned him into the very monster they accused him of being. His story is horrifying, yes, but it's also deeply, deeply sad. And when we finally learn his full backstory, when we understand what drove him to madness, it's genuinely heartbreaking. Twisty's reign of terror doesn't last the whole season, but his presence, his legacy, his mask, they haunt the rest of the story. He's the ghost that never quite goes away.
If Twisty is a tragic monster, then Dandy Mott is a monster in the truest sense of the word. Dandy is a wealthy, spoiled, stunningly handsome young man who lives in a mansion with his overprotective mother, Gloria. He has everything money can buy. Everything except purpose, except meaning, except the ability to feel genuine human emotion. Dandy is a psychopath. Not in the casual sense, but in the clinical sense. He has no empathy, no remorse, no conscience. He's bored with his privileged life, and he's searching for something, anything, to make him feel alive. When Dandy encounters Twisty the Clown, instead of being horrified, he's fascinated. He's thrilled. He sees Twisty as a kindred spirit, as someone who understands the joy of violence, of power, of taking life. Dandy becomes Twisty's apprentice, learning the art of murder. And he loves it. He absolutely loves it. But Dandy doesn't just want to kill random people. He becomes obsessed with the Freak Show, particularly with Bet and Dot. He wants to join the freaks, to be part of their family. Because despite his wealth and his looks, Dandy knows he's different. He knows he's broken inside. When the freaks reject him, when they tell him he doesn't belong, something inside Dandy snaps completely. He kills his mother in a bathtub, staging it as a suicide. He goes on random murder sprees, killing people for fun, for sport, for the brief rush of feeling something. And eventually, he buys the entire Freak Show from Elsa. He becomes their owner, their master. And when they don't worship him the way he expects, when attendance is poor and his ego is bruised, Dandy does the unthinkable. He massacres them. Almost all of them. In one of the most brutal, most shocking sequences in American horror story history, Dandy systematically murders the freaks during a performance. Dandy Mott represents the true theme of Freak Show. The real monsters aren't the people with physical differences. The real monsters are the beautiful, wealthy, privileged people who see others as toys, as objects, as things to be used and discarded. Dandy is handsome, charming on the surface, but completely devoid of humanity. He's the ultimate villain of the season. And his death, when it finally comes, is satisfying in a way few villain deaths are. On Halloween night, the freaks tell a legend. A ghost story. The tale of Edward Mordrake. Edward Mordrake was a 19th-century English nobleman born with a second face on the back of his head. Not a deformity, but an actual face. And this face, according to legend, whispered terrible things to him. Evil things. Things that drove him slowly, inevitably insane. Unable to bear the whispers any longer, Edward Mordrake hanged himself. But his story didn't end with death. Now, his ghost appears every Halloween, searching for performers, searching for freaks. He interviews them, listens to their stories, hears their pain. And he chooses one, the one with the saddest story, the most tragic tale, to join his ghostly troupe for eternity. The freaks know this legend. They know that performing on Halloween is forbidden, that it invites Mordrake's attention. But Elsa, desperate for money, desperate for success, ignores the warnings and puts on a show anyway. And Mordrake comes. He appears in the tent, ethereal, terrifying, accompanied by his troupe of ghostly freaks from centuries past. He interviews several performers, hearing their tragic backstories. He hears Elsa's story of torture and mutilation. He hears about abuse, abandonment, rejection. Each story is more heartbreaking than the last. But ultimately, Mordrake chooses Twisty. Because Twisty's story, his tale of false accusations, suicide, and madness, is the saddest of all. Mordrake kills Twisty, stabbing him, freeing him from his torment and taking him to the afterlife. And in that moment, Twisty's face, hidden behind that grotesque mask, finally shows peace. The Edward Mordrake episodes are some of the most beautifully tragic, most haunting in the entire series. They're a reminder that every freak, every outcast, every monster has a story. Has pain. Has humanity. And Mordrake will return at the end of the season, on Halloween 1960, to claim one final performer. To claim Elsa Mars herself. While the freaks are dealing with Twisty and Dandy, two new threats arrive at the show. Stanley and Maggie, a pair of con artists with a sinister plan. Stanley poses as a talent scout from Hollywood, charming Elsa with promises of stardom. But his real goal is far darker. He wants to murder the freaks and sell their bodies to the American Morbidity Museum, a collection of medical oddities and preserved specimens. Stanley is manipulative, charming, absolutely ruthless. He sees the freaks not as people, but as products. As things to be bought and sold. He's greed personified. His accomplice is Maggie, posing as a fortune teller named Esmeralda. Maggie initially goes along with Stanley's plan. She needs the money, and she's done this kind of con before. But something changes when she meets the freaks. When she gets to know them as people. When she falls for Jimmy Darling and sees the genuine kindness, the genuine humanity in these performers. Maggie develops a conscience. She tries to warn the freaks, tries to protect them. But by then, it's too late. Stanley has already set his plan in motion. Stanley orchestrates the death of Mott, the smallest woman in the world. He has her drowned, her tiny body preserved, and sells her to the museum. It's one of the most heartbreaking deaths of the season. He manipulates Del Toledo, blackmailing him with knowledge of his homosexuality, forcing Del to kill for him. But Stanley's greed becomes his downfall. When the freaks finally discover his betrayal, when they learn what he's done, they exact brutal, poetic revenge. They perform their own twisted show with Stanley as the main attraction. They turn him into the very thing he sought to exploit. They make him a freak. Stanley and Maggie represent the exploitation that real freak show performers faced throughout history. They represent the people who saw human beings as curiosities, as objects, as things to profit from. And their story is a reminder that the freaks, when pushed too far, when their family is threatened, are capable of terrible, terrible things. As the season progresses, the body count rises. Betrayals stack upon betrayals. The family that once stood together begins to tear itself apart. Del Toledo, blackmailed by Stanley and consumed by self-hatred, murders Ma Petite. He drowns her in a bathtub, her tiny body struggling, her trust in him making it even more horrific. When the troupe discovers what Del has done, they plan his execution. They're going to hang him, to make him pay for killing one of their own. But Elsa shoots him first. Not out of mercy, not out of justice, but to protect her show. To prevent a scandal. Del dies, and his death is almost an afterthought. Jimmy Darling, trying to raise money for a lawyer after being framed for murder, makes a desperate decision. He sells his hands, his lobster claws, to a museum. They're surgically removed. And when the freaks rescue Jimmy from jail, he's left permanently mutilated. The very thing that made him special, that made him unique, is gone. He's lost his identity. Ethel, Jimmy's mother, the bearded lady who loved him more than anything, is murdered by Elsa. Shot in the eye during a drunken confrontation. Ethel threatened to expose Elsa's lies, to reveal her secrets. And Elsa, protecting herself, protecting her image, kills the woman who was her oldest friend. The freak show is falling apart. Performers are dying. Trust is shattered. The family is broken. And through it all, Elsa is making plans. She's been discovered by a television producer. She's going to Hollywood. She's going to abandon the freaks, sell the show, and chase her dream of stardom. She doesn't care that she's leaving them vulnerable. Doesn't care that she's selling them to Dandy Mott, a man she knows is dangerous. All Elsa cares about is fame. And she's willing to sacrifice everyone and everything to get it. This section of the season is brutal. It's watching a family destroy itself from within. It's watching good people make terrible choices. It's watching the dream of the freak show, the dream of belonging, crumble into dust. And the worst is yet to come. While the freak show burns, Elsa Mars rises. She's discovered by a television producer and becomes the host of her own variety show. The Elsa Mars Hour. She's finally famous. Finally a star. Finally living the dream she's chased her entire life. She performs on television every week. She's adored by millions. She lives in a Hollywood mansion, wears designer clothes, has everything she ever wanted. But there's a price. Her contract forbids her from marrying. From having a real relationship. From having a real life. She's trapped in a gilded cage. Famous but alone. Adored by millions but loved by no one. And her past is catching up with her. The snuff film from Berlin, the film that cost her her legs, still exists. And it's scheduled to air on television on Halloween night, 1960. When that film airs, her career will be over. Her reputation destroyed. Everything she's built will crumble. Elsa knows this. She knows her time is running out. She knows that fame, the thing she sacrificed everything for, is about to be taken away. So on Halloween night, she makes a choice. She performs one final show. And she waits for Edward Mordrake to come for her. Because Elsa Mars would rather die famous than live in shame. Back in Jupiter, Florida, Dandy Mott has purchased the freak show. He believes he's finally found where he belongs. Finally found his family. But the freaks don't want him. They don't worship him. They don't see him as special. And when attendance is poor, when his show fails, when his ego is bruised, Dandy's rage explodes. During a performance, Dandy pulls out a gun. And he starts shooting. He murders them systematically. One by one. The performers who trusted him, who had no choice but to work for him, are gunned down in cold blood. Amazon Eve. Paul the Illustrated Seal. Susie. Toulouse. The performers we've grown to love, the family we've watched struggle and survive, are slaughtered. Dandy spares only Bet and Dot. He plans to marry them, to make them his wives, to own them completely. But 4 people survive the massacre. Jimmy Darling. Desiree Dupree. And the twins, Bet and Dot. And they want revenge. they lured Dandy into a trap. They promise him that Bet and Dot will marry him, that they'll be his forever. Dandy, blinded by his obsession, believes them. They lead him to Houdini's water tank, the same tank used in the show's performances. And they lock him inside. As the tank fills with water, as Dandy realizes he's been tricked, he screams. He begs. He pounds on the glass. But the survivors watch without mercy. Without pity. They watch as the man who murdered their family, who destroyed their home, drowns slowly, desperately, in that tank. Dandy Mott, the beautiful psychopath, the wealthy monster, dies the death he deserves. And the freaks feel no remorse. Because in the end, they protected each other. They avenged their family. And they survived. On Halloween night, 1960, Elsa Mars performs her final show. She knows Edward Mordrake is coming. She can feel it. And she's ready. Mordrake appears, ethereal and terrifying, just as he did years before. He listens to Elsa's story. Her desperate need for fame. Her betrayal of her family. Her realization, too late, that she destroyed everything that mattered for a dream that left her empty. Mordrake deems her worthy of his troupe. And he kills her. But instead of damnation, Elsa finds peace. She awakens in her freak show tent. But it's different now. It's perfect. It's heaven. All her performers are there. Ma Petite runs to embrace her. Ethel, the woman she murdered, forgives her. The family she abandoned, the family she betrayed, welcomes her home. They're performing to a packed house every single night. Forever. The show never ends. The applause never stops. Elsa finally has what she always wanted. Not fame. Not stardom. But family. Belonging. Love. She's home. Meanwhile, the survivors move on. Jimmy and the twins start a new life together. Desiree finds genuine love with a kind man who sees her for who she really is. They carry the memory of their fallen family. But they survive. They build new lives. They find happiness. And that's the ultimate message of Freak Show. That those society deems different, those labeled as freaks, as monsters, as less than human, they're not the real monsters. The real monsters are the people who exploit them. Who abuse them. Who see them as objects rather than human beings. The freaks are the heroes of this story. And their survival, their resilience, their refusal to be broken, that's what makes this season so powerful. American Horror Story, Freak Show is a tragic, beautiful, and horrifying exploration of what it means to be different in a world that demands conformity. It's about family. Both the one you're born into and the one you choose. It's about the price of fame, the nature of monstrosity, and the power of acceptance. It's about people who society rejected finding their own place, their own home, their own sense of worth. And it's about how that home, that family, can be destroyed by greed, by jealousy, by the cruelty of so-called normal people. This season features some incredible performances, particularly Jessica Lange in her final season as a regular cast member. The makeup, the costumes, the cinematography, all of it is stunning. Yes, it's dark. Yes, it's brutal. Yes, it will break your heart. But it's also one of the most emotionally resonant seasons of American Horror Story. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And subscribe if you haven't already, because I've got more American Horror Story breakdowns coming. Let me know in the comments which season you'd like me to cover next. Should we explore the Witches of Coven? The Ghosts of Murder House? The Cult of, well, Cult? Or maybe the Apocalypse of Apocalypse? Drop your suggestions below. And remember, in the words of this season, we're all freaks in our own way. And that's what makes us human. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.